You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome back to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and we are so excited that you are tuned in for another episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. We want you to take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button if you are not subscribed. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, share the video. If you're on Apple or Spotify, be sure to subscribe so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. If this is your first time listening, welcome. We hope that you enjoy this conversation, that you are blessed by it. And if you are a returning listener and you listen to us every week, we just want to say thank you so much for sticking it out with us and joining us on this journey. This has been an interesting 2 weeks, right? Because we've celebrated our birthdays, right? In these last few weeks, right? Or days or weekends, right?
Yeah.
And I turned 29 and you turned
21. 34.
34.
Yes.
So definitely happy birthday to us.
Yes.
Right. And I had a great time. I know you had a great time.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, when it comes to birthdays are always a good thing. I think, you know, it's a gift. At the end of the day, you know, we all have this dream and aspiration to get like all old and like, you know, be 93 with like grandkids and all this other stuff. But the reality of the situation is that that's not guaranteed to everybody. You know, we hope and dream that, you know, we'll be able to be healthy and strong and make it to, you know, a really good, decent old age. But, you know, tomorrow's not guaranteed for anyone. So the fact that you get to celebrate another birthday, another year, it's just something that regardless of where you find yourself and what situation you find yourself in and where you find yourself on the timeline of life, it's something that you have to be grateful for. So I know that you're grateful. I'm grateful. We're all grateful for just another year of life, and we hope to have many more. Absolutely.
You know, this week we have, you know, we've been doing music features in the last few episodes, highlighting new releases and music. This week, our whole episode will probably be based on, you know, you can say this week's music feature, right? We talked a little bit last week about Maverick City and Kirk Franklin coming together, right, to work on an album, and they've, you know, put it out. It's titled Kingdom Book 1, right? They've released their first single titled Kingdom and their second single titled Bless Me, right? And this all kind of took place March 1st in 2022 in Florida, and it was the largest prison event, they said, in U.S. history, with over 1,300 inmates that were there worshiping Jesus at this concert, and they recorded, you know, and put together their album there. So Bless Me is their second single that was released, and, you know, it caused quite a stir, you know, in certain online, you know, forums, right? And people in their comments and, you know, just reading through certain comments or watching certain videos, right? We live in an age now, you know, people do what we do, right? They, you know, talk about things and react to things. But in the Christian space, right, we see, I think it's growing a little bit more, where we see individuals, you know, reacting to new music and music videos and sharing their opinions on, you know, the song lyrics and, you know, the songs and the music and then the artist, right? We're seeing that more and more. And it seems like this particular song by Maverick City and Kirk Franklin titled Bless Me had some controversy in it. And I think it was mainly over the lyrics. So I'm just going to read some of the lyrics, right? It says, bless me, God indeed. Death has been defeated. He is our victory. Bless me, God, not just for me, but so everyone around me can have everything they need. Then he goes on to say, favor, till I'm in the conversation, let it fall on me till I'm in the conversation of all my enemies. Favor, God, not just for me, but so everyone around me can have everything they need, right? There's a bridge, there's another verse, right? So I think what causes the controversy, what causes, you know, the opinions are those verses, right? And we'll get to the bridge in a minute because that's kind of where things change. But it's the idea of these individuals belting out, bless me, you know, the idea of them saying, favor, let it fall on me. People had a problem with this type of song and the lyrics because it seemed like it was very self-centered. It's about me, right? And these individuals just kind of yelling out, God bless me, let your favor fall on me, right? So it sparked a conversation and thought of, is it wrong to ask God to bless you?
Yeah.
Either in a song, in your prayer time, in corporate prayer, in group prayer, like, should we not be asking God to bless us or have his favor be upon us, and do great things through us? So it seemed like there was a lot of talk, about this song and this idea of just yelling out, bless me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, you know what? I think that their opinions are rooted in a couple of things, but I think one of the things that they're rooted in is in the idea that when it comes to praise and worship, it's something that should be done in exalting God. It should be a thing about, shouting out God in his magnificence, in his greatness, in his power, in his omniscience, in his ability to do all things, and giving thanks for the things that he has done. And like really, like I feel like they come from a point of view that is really like into that. Into the idea that when it comes to worship, when it comes to praise, when it comes to music, it should be done in a way that strictly and only glorifies God, which I get that. I think there's truth to that, absolutely when it comes to worship, it should be something that elevates God and all that other stuff or whatever. But I also don't think that the hyper microscope of breaking down a song, and then I think my other grudge is, if you're gonna break down the song, break down the whole song. Don't just focus on the name of the song or just the first two lines and then just leave it alone. It's kind of like the idea of, bless me, bless me, bless me is said 3 times, but then it also says, but so everyone around me can have everything they need. Let all these folks that's with me, God, have everything they need. You know what I mean? So it's like this idea of, really trying to get the idea of the song and understanding it, and yeah, it's maybe coming from a little point of view that sounds from the beginning like very like self-centered, like bless me, give me, which I know that people have an issue with that because it's very it can give off the vibe of like prosperity gospel religion, which is like,
because those are words, favor,
yes,
right, and blessings that oftentimes get associated with prosperity gospel.
Yeah, which is for those of people that don't understand that terminology, prosperity gospel is really the idea of just serving God for what he can give you, and God is a God of the el oro la plata, like of gold, of silver, and everything. So just worship God and he'll give you everything you need,
houses,
or whatever,
cars,
like all that
wealth,
stuff,
jewelry,
where they don't speak on all the other stuff. Like, they don't speak about repentance. They don't speak about being redeemed. They don't speak about salvation in like the way that it should be. Like, they're really only focused on like prosperity. Like, that's like the whole prosperity gospel situation. So I think that off the bat kind of can give that vibe if that's the lens you're going into it with. If you're going into it with the lens of, especially if you already have an opinion on certain groups of people, like Maverick City, who, for the last 2-3 years has been really skyrocketing. And it's like we've spoken about in our podcasts before that, once you get in a bigger platform, you're opening up yourself to more opinions, to more scrutinizing and stuff like that. So with that, we also see that there are groups of people that have, I don't want to say risen up against them. That sounds like really like whatever, but are more critical about them. And they break down a lot of their songs. They break down a lot of their ideology, or, inferring what does this mean? What point of view are they coming from? Mind you, they weren't in the songwriting room, but they have a whole idea and a thesis about it. So once you're already going into it with that in mind, I think it's very easy for you to then look at it with a negative critical lens instead of an objective critical lens.
Yeah, and I think, there's nothing wrong with you asking God to bless you. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that, we see examples in the Bible about this, which I'll get into in a little bit, but, we want God to bless us. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think it's like anything where there are good things, right, that when said in the right way, under the right circumstances, can be a great blessing, can be positive, can be amazing. But then those very same things we can take and mess them up, right? So if we're asking God to bless us, all right? And this is our prayer. We're saying, bless me, God, bless me. May your favor be upon me, because I need to show off and show people that I'm able to do this and that I got this and I got money and I'm able to do this better than them. And that's doing things with the wrong motivation and intention. That's unacceptable. That's not cool, right? Absolutely. I think the song was clear with the intention of why we're asking God to bless us, right? And it basically says, right, so everyone around me can have everything they need. And it literally says favor, favor, not just for me, right? So I think right there, it's enough to basically shut down that whole argument or that whole conversation of this being something that's self-centered, right?
Yes.
Ultimately, we want God to bless us. We want to be blessed by God. We want to receive his blessings and receive those things. And our goal should be not to keep it for ourselves, right? But to give it to others and share with others, right? My blessing shouldn't be limited to just me and that's it. And if it is, there's a problem there, If we're asking God to bless us and bless us with health, hopefully that health is not just because we want to feel good, but because we want to be healthy and strong and able to serve our families the way God wants us to, serve others, serve in our church. If we're asking God to bless us with a car, I do believe that you can ask God even to help you get material things, right? If your motives and your heart are in the right place. You're asking God to bless you with the car. It's like, hopefully it's so, ultimately that could also be a blessing, not just to your life, but to the lives of others, and also help you spiritually and whatever you need to do and getting to church and getting to your job and you know what I mean? Like there's so many different layers to this type of conversation. And like I said earlier, I think we've seen a rise of Christian influencers or Christian YouTubers or just Christian podcasters in general, people who, are having conversations and reacting to these things where it seems like we are being super critical of the lyrics, super critical of every word, where I think we're beginning to lose the message, right? When we begin to just focus on what we think the writer of the song meant when they said bless me, right? For all we know, this is the complete opposite of the intention of the individuals who wrote this song. And they were basically saying, we want God to bless us so we can bless others. And people are kind of going along with the message of, asking for God's blessings because we want it. We want it for us, So I think we just have to be careful in that, being super critical of, music and especially in, when I don't like calling it this, but in the genre of worship music specifically that are being sung in our churches, right?
Yeah.
Once we start dissecting every single word, I think if we go out there trying to find something, we will find it. You know what I mean? And you will twist a word or twist a meaning or an interpretation that's not what it was meant to say or meant to do.
Yeah, and I think, it's very difficult because, you also have to understand. It's not actually, it's not that difficult because what you have to do is understand that this song is part of an album. And usually when artists are putting an album together, they're telling a story, right? So then you have like the first song, Kingdom, that came out or whatever. And then you have this next single, which is Bless Me. But then when you compare the two, and you look at, all right, you know what? Let's find out if they really have an egocentric mentality where all their music is like this. So if you start to see that the whole album is an egocentric album, that everything is just about being, gluttonous and how much can you get from God, and I'm going to take this from God and this is mine and give that to me. That's different. That's completely different because then the proof is in the pudding, like they say. That's all they talk about. But then when you look at the lyrics from Kingdom, that is speaking about God and how the kingdom is his, it's speaking about thine kingdom, thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory forever and ever. He finished my story. We're singing freedom. It's like these are the lyrics from Kingdom or whatever. None of this is egocentric and give me. This is a song that's giving glory and honor to God as well. So I think that when you're going to go out on a limb or you're going to go out on a branch and you're going to go ahead and start dissecting or giving opinions on songs, you can't, unless it's a single that is not accompanied by an album that's not going to be released. I think you really have to look at the big picture because sometimes there are times that it's a journey. So maybe it's a whole story where the first thing is about their encounter with Christ. The next story is about a testimony that was specific about what they're doing. The next thing could be about a restoration moment. So it has its ups and downs and its waves and its twists and turns. So if you're just taking a piece of the story out, you're going to lose the whole perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching some YouTubers talk about this and react to it, and they brought up the song of The Blessing by Carrie Job, right? And they basically were kind of comparing two songs that have to do with God's blessing and how different they are, and how one is probably more acceptable or more pure or correct than the other, right? So in The Blessing, the lyrics go, "Lord bless you, Lord keep you, make his face shine upon you." And it's now talking, it's a prayer, right? That you're saying to someone else or to a people. But because, and this is what they were saying, because that song was done and the music was much slower and it was calmer and it was, I guess, more gentle in its delivery, right? It was seemed to be more like, in that atmosphere and environment, more acceptable and okay, because it was more like a prayer, right? And when then talking about Bless Me, words like it's more upbeat, more lively, there's more music, right? It seems like the vibe changes simply because of the music.
Yeah,
right?
And I have a problem because I saw the thing that you're speaking about. And I think that that's where now I can sit back and talk about the person that's speaking and their intention and why they're saying the things that they're saying. Because what they really said also was, yes, they started off with the idea of that, when it comes to the Carrie Job song, it is straight biblical, like you see it in their testimony videos and all that stuff or whatever. But then you also see where their preferences jumps in, because now all of a sudden the idea of an up-tempo song to them equates to what's the thing that we're talking about, the prosperity gospel, or whatever. So they had an issue with it being up-tempo. They think that worship music needs to be more solemne, needs to be more like, very like ethereal, very like airy, very like you have to feel like you're floating on a cloud. And if it's not that, then they don't think it's worship music. And I have a problem with that, because I think that worship music is, last episode we spoke about diversity. It could be any type of genre. It can be an upbeat song. It could be a song that's a little bit more rocky, like I think about like Kim Walker and Jesus Culture and all of them, whatever. Like their music is rock, but it's worship music as well. So then now we're gonna say that, oh no, that doesn't count, because they're the worship music needs to be more airy, like more like feathery, like no, so it kind of comes to, you're already coming in with a bias that because this song is upbeat, you don't think it can glorify God. And I think that's a very erroneous way to look at it. Yeah, because we can take The Blessing and those lyrics and just put it to different music, and it can change completely. Yes, you know what I mean? And we can put it to a rock beat, and I could be yelling those things aggressively to you, right? They're heavy metal Christian bands.
Like,
that's
as if I'm so angry and I want God to bless you, and make his face shine upon it. It can be scary. You know what I mean? Like, is that not worship? So again, it's this idea that I don't think the music has anything to do with it, right? And I don't want to go there, right? Going along with the diversity conversation, but in the distinctions between a Carrie Job Blessing and a Kirk Franklin Maverick City Bless Me, and just visually what it looks like and the individuals partaking in that, right? Because then I think that opens up another can of worms that can be problematic, in the sense that I think there are individuals who may have their preferences as to worship, and they may lean more towards a more slower worship type genre of music, and that's okay. But then a Maverick City or Kirk Franklin, it's like, because it's upbeat and because, as we know, predominantly are, black, brothers and sisters, or Hispanic people of color are very much more lively and upbeat in their worship.
But with that being said, I also think that's why it's important that you need to also know your platform. Like, you can't sit and start talking about music that is written and put together or performed or recorded by mostly people of color, when that's not your experience, that's not the music you like, that's not your vibe. You're more into something that's a little bit more not as flavorful. So then, which is fine. There's some people that like a lot of sazon and a lot of ingredients and seasoning in their food, and there's some people that don't. They like the bland stuff. So that's okay. Everybody has their flavor. Everybody has their palate. But you can't be from a perspective that doesn't like the flavor, but then wants to criticize it. I think that you don't have a leg to stand on.
Especially when, we're not shouting out these people or anything like that.
Their name is Bobby and all that stuff.
But, then when you're asked, to give a Kirk Franklin song,
yes,
you go and start singing a song, and you are completely confident that that's a Kirk Franklin song, and it's a Mary Mary song, right? So it's like,
called Shackles.
Whoa,
so
and it's completely off, right? But you're so convinced that it's a Kirk Franklin song. So again, it throws it off, right? So I think this is where we can see, a lot of times these conversations, they bring about good points, you know what I mean? That we need to sit and reflect and talk about, because again, I think it's not fair, right? When we make statements like that, or when we put out, content like that, where, we hold one thing and this is okay because it's done in this way. And then it's much more lively, much more rowdy. I don't think that seems like we're yelling at God to bless us, right?
Yeah. And it's like, you can't give opinions on what you think their point of view was when you don't understand their experience. Like, there's no way you can do that. You can't assume what it is to be, someone that's coming from that background or that facility or that, expression, when that is not what your expression is. That is not your background. That is not your facility. That's not something that you've been around in, because it's not about color. It's about experience. So if that's not your flow, that's not what you work, that's not how your church operates, that's not how the people around you operates, then I don't think you can go ahead and then sit down and criticize or use a critical lens objectively. You're not going to be able to do that, because you're coming from a one-sided point of view, which I think is why I have sometimes like reservations with like looking at these music reviews and listening to certain people's opinions and stuff, because it's like you're giving an opinion from a basis that's not really founded enough or isn't really strong enough to give that opinion. I can't sit here and give my critical opinion on paleontology, because I didn't go to school for paleontology. I only know what I know about dinosaurs from the cartoons my kids watch. So it's like I don't have a footing to sit there and talk about that. That's not my experience. So why would I go out and then speak against it and give an opinion on that when that's not my field?
And I think it also goes, at the end of the day, who are we to judge or criticize anyone's worship, right? Yeah. Now, this is coming outside of a music review that a YouTuber does, but just in general within your church, right? Who are you to really, judge someone's worship, judge their passion, judge the amount, how loud they sing, or how, lively they are, or how active they are during their worship, how engaged they are. They have their eyes closed the whole time, their hands lifted the whole time. They're so loud. They sing so loud. Why are they so, right? Like, who are you to do that when you don't know, again, like you said, that individual's experience? You don't know their journey. You don't know their story. You don't know, how much they may need that worship in that moment, or how grateful they are for their life, or how, hopeful they are when they worship for the things that they're going through, and that they will get better. And this worship could be the only thing that's sustaining them, or the only thing that's keeping them going, and the only thing keeping them, alive and hopeful in God, right? So when it comes to worship, we all worship differently. We all have different reasons and different motivations and different, places that we go to, during our worship to really give God our all. And it's hard to make assumptions. It's hard to make statements when you don't know the individual's experience. You aren't there in the writing room with them. You aren't with them, in their low moments of their life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure if we look at the writers of the songs or the performers of the songs, just Kirk Franklin himself, right, and Maverick City, we know through public, things that they have said, hardships they faced in their life, moments of difficulty in their life, loss that they've been through, pain, hurt, all of those different things. You know what? They should be asking God to bless them. They should be asking God for his favor, and they should be asking God for these things. And like they say, so then they can indeed then bless others, and the song goes on to, say persecuted, not abandoned. And they basically start shouting, we got everything we need, criticized, never forsaken. We got everything we need because God's a promise keeper. We got everything we need. I got victory because our God's got everything we need. So again, it's like we have everything we need, right? And it then if you're doubting, like, are you saying that we don't need God, that we're good on our own? No, we're saying this because our God's got everything we need.
Yeah.
So again, I think when looking at these lyrics, there really isn't room to, have this type of discussion or debate on whether, these individuals are being self-centered or a prosperity gospel or just thinking about themselves, Yeah,
it's just, there's a song for everything. There's times for everything. There's, like I said, we're all on the same path in reference to, salvation and Christ and getting closer to him, but everybody's journey is different. So you're at a different place than I am. The next person's at a different place than so-and-so or whatever. So what we may need in those moments is completely different. We may need a song that reminds us that we can reach out and call on to God to bless us in our moments of need. You may need a song that just reminds you of God's, power as our redeemer, as our, person who is going to go ahead and reshape us and forgive us. And, depending on what part of your journey you find yourself in, you're going to need a thing that fits that purpose. So I think that it's okay to say, you know what, that song really isn't. I don't know. They've done better. Or, oh, you know what? It's not really my vibe. But you know what? Whatever. Like, it's okay to say that, because I'm not sitting here saying that I love this song. I'm going to go ahead and, this is what I'm going to be jamming to every day for the next 365 days. No, I did not say that, because that's not what's happening. But I can look at a word. I could look at music and be like, okay, cool. That's their vibe. And keep it moving.
Yeah, and again, like you said, there's preference. So you may have one preference, from one song and over the other, and may enjoy one or the other. That doesn't mean you have to be super critical, right?
Yeah.
And basically say, I don't like that song because it's theologically incorrect and this and the other thing. Are there songs and moments that it's like, okay, we really shouldn't be saying that or singing that? Absolutely, right? But now once you start getting into a territory of trying to see the author's intention, the singer's intention and motivation behind it, it's so hard once we get into those categories. And like we were saying earlier, there's so many songs that are now being criticized or scrutinized or now being looked at under a microscope. And I think a lot of it has to do with the churches that these songs stem from, right? So we know
groups.
these. Right.
Yeah.
So we have these songs that are put out by bands, right? So we have Elevation Worship, we have Maverick City, you have
a Hillsong,
right?
Yeah.
Bethel. You have all these different groups, and they all kind of reside at a specific church. We have Elevation Church, we have Bethel, which is its own thing, Hillsong, which everyone knows, right? And I think because individuals have problems or, trouble with some of the things that these pastors say or their teachings, right?
Or whatever controversies that they have going on
all the
at
different
the moment.
Controversies, they immediately associate that with everyone. So if you have just a little bit of Hillsong in you, nope. If you have a little bit of Elevation in you, nope. If you have a little, and it's like, again, are you attacking this song or this band, this group and their worship and the lyrics because that's what it is? Or is it because you're putting it all under the same category of the pastor you don't like or the church you don't like and how they handle things, right? Because we saw this recently with the song Champion by Bethel. There was a lot of controversy surrounding that song because of the lyric, that says, when I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority, right? So it's almost, people had a problem with the statement of, you opening your mouth and miracles breaking out. Like, who are you to have miracles break out? The miracles only come about, because of Jesus.
Yeah, it's
right?
not you, it's him.
And then you saying you have the authority. Well, it says here, Jesus has given me, right? So it's like Jesus has given us that authority, right? And a lot of people, like, this is a song that a lot of churches, and I even know of a few that said they either changed that lyric and sing it differently, or they took out the song completely, right? So I think this opens up a conversation of, are we now, or should there now be a list of worship songs that are not to be sung in churches because of controversy or because of lyrics like this? Is this where we're headed?
I mean, I think it's a slippery slope, because I do think that, as followers of Christ, that we have to be careful of what we consume, and we do have to be understanding of what we're saying and what we're reading and all that other stuff or whatever. I do think that that's highly important, you know, because you just want to make sure that what you're preaching or what you're singing or what you're professing is actually correct. 100%, I agree with that. But now, do I think that now we're gonna start? Do I think it's now important or necessary to start playing word search? And, you know, not connecting the lines and not connecting the dots, you know, something like that, like saying like, oh, it's you can't say you have the authority for stuff like that or whatever. But then, you know, when God commands, or when, you know, the Bible commands us to do things like go out and preach, you know, go out and heal, go out and whatever. Obviously, we're doing that in the name of Jesus. You know, we're doing that with the authority that God has given us, but we have to believe that we have the authority to do it.
And this is a song that's limited. We don't have 37 minutes for one track to be you know, I have the authority that was given to me by God through Jesus when he died and resurrected. He gave it to me. And like, we don't have the time to do that. So I think oftentimes it's like, you know, it's okay to just say you have the authority. Yeah. But we know as Christians, right, and believers, where that authority comes from and who gave it to you.
And that's the responsibility of the church. Right. As pastors, as leaders, as preachers, as teachers, you should then be educating your congregation to understand where that authority comes from. You know, so we get it because we understand it. So it's not like, oh, boom, I woke up so I can, you know, door open and the door is going to open. Like, I understand that that's not the power that I have. But if I'm put in a situation where I do have to declare something in the name of Jesus, I should feel confident enough that I have the authority to do that. You know, so that's another thing. Like, we can go in half an hour and breaking down this song and this idea. Yeah. You know, so I think that when you want to pick and choose, you know, what you want to be upset about, rather than maybe taking that same energy and educating the people as into, you know what, you know, for those of you that may be confused on that one lyric and think that, you know, now you can go ahead and start commanding things to happen, you know, that's not what this is talking about. Right, this is really more about X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, because people can do this when it comes to the Bible. Yeah. We don't need a song to misinterpret stuff. Yeah, you know, absolutely. We can read, you know, power of life and death in the tongue and take that and start speaking things and waiting for it to happen. And it's like, I spoke it and nothing happened. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, because that's probably not even in God's plan or will for your life. And this isn't just you go around speaking things like you said, door open, car open, coffee. So like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not how it's going to be. You know what I mean? But people can misinterpret all day long when it comes, you know, to content that we consume. We can misinterpret, you know, but like you said, it's a part of a bigger conversation. Talk about it, you know?
Yeah, and you know, that's the catch-22 of this day and age and social media and all that other stuff or whatever. In the same way that we're sitting here saying you can't do that, other people are going out and saying whatever they want. You know, and that's freedom of speech. Everybody has the ability to do that. You can't sit there and say what you want to say about whatever you want to say because that's the freedom you're given to do. But I always, you know, give like air to caution and being like, make sure that you're using your platform to bring people closer to God and closer to his message. And it's not an idea of you just, you know, spewing negativity. Because I remember, you know, it was one of the comments on that video that we were referring to about those individuals that were speaking, you know, one of their followers said exactly that. Like, do you ever say anything positive? Like, all your videos is like very negative. And it's like, if you're sitting there professing that you're representing Christ and that you're representing Christ's image and love and, you know, his message on earth, but your followers, which that's a whole other thing, but the people that follow you and consume your content and looking at you like, this is really negative. It's kind of like, maybe you need to sit back and reconsider, because there is room to give constructive criticism. There is room to even, you know, give a little critique and suggestion. But when the only thing you're doing is tearing down your fellow brothers and sisters, I think you need to look in the mirror. Yeah.
And, you know, First Chronicles 4:10 is one of the, you know, it was the first example that came to mind when I, you know, was kind of made aware of all this. And it says, and Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain. And it says, so God granted him what he requested, right? I mean, some versions say so that I will be free from pain, that I won't have any pain, right? But Jabez is literally saying, God bless me. And this is like so common, this verse, and so popular, the prayer of Jabez. And we see that God granted him his request. He requested this, God gave it to him, right? So are we to say, like Jabez, you shouldn't be so self-centered, asking God to keep you from pain, right? That you don't want to be, harmed and all these things. No, if I'm in pain, I don't want to be in pain. I'm praying to God, asking him, God, please, like, take this away from me. You know what I mean? And bless me with your peace and with your love and with your comfort. I think it's okay for you to say those things. We see throughout the Bible people making certain requests and God granting it, right? We see people, Solomon asking God for wisdom, God giving him the wisdom. And even with that God, he asked for wisdom and God gave it to him, he still made mistakes. You know what I mean? We see people that request certain things of God gives it to them, and it's ultimately up to them, to use it for positive, for great things, to use it for the negative. And, again, that is a part of the human nature and human experience. You know what I mean? Yeah. We will ask God for things. God will bless us with things. We can sometimes misuse it. We can sometimes abuse it. We cannot, treat it in the way that it should be treated or respected or taken care of.
And I think that, the idea, like, bless me is it's a terminology that's very ambiguous, because I think it's very easy to assume, oh, bless me, I want a car, I want a mansion, I want money, I want this. But there's some people that are asking God to bless them with direction. There's some people that, like you said, God is asking them to bless them with healing. God bless me with an opportunity, whatever it is. I need a change in my life, Lord. I'm just asking you to bless me, open the door, open up a passage. Like, it's not always monetary. There's people, we all go through our situations, we all go through our struggles, we all go through our moments where we need God to step in and do something. Yeah. And regardless of how that looks, I think that's God blessing you. Yeah. Whether it's financial, whether it's health wise, whether it's an opportunity, whether it's a spiritual, mental, emotional thing that you need or whatever, those are all blessings from God as well. So to sit down and be like, yeah, we can ask God to bless us, I think that's a huge stretch.
Yeah. And also that's such a small part, or should be such a small part in our overall life as a Christian. Oh yes, right? Absolutely. We're not just walking around every day saying, God bless me. Yes. You know what I mean? It's like, hopefully you are thanking him for your blessings and what you do have, and hopefully you are grateful, and hopefully you are worshiping him and praising him just for who he is and not for what he can give you. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times too, individuals have problems with this type of music or these type of lyrics. To each his own, right? You may feel that this isn't your thing and you don't like listening to it, and that's fine. But I wonder, for certain individuals who may be struggle with these type of things, of maybe just praying for themselves or praying for things that they want and kind of keeping it there and that's it, then I could see why something like this probably wouldn't be like the best thing for you to listen to, right? But I think for the most part, it's again just the message or the interpretation that we want to hear, right? And what we want it to kind of be. We kind of make up this whole narrative, so we have a lot of music that comes out, every Friday, sometimes even, in different days, right? There's new music that artists drop, and, Christian artists drop, and summertime is like a big time for that too, where people always drop music. When listening to the music, listen to it with an open mind, but at the same time, listen to it and, try not to look for the errors and the mistakes and look for, where they contradicting themselves, or where can I, jump in this and basically say like, oh, but that doesn't apply to every situation. I think the Spirit of God will also help you navigate, what's acceptable, what's right, what's off. And you will know, you know what I mean? Like, you will truly know when things aren't, what they should be. Because we're in no way saying that everything that everyone puts out there is okay, right? There could be music, there could be content, books, there could be messages, sermons that could be wrong and have, issues theologically, and have issues where it is self-centered and very much, forgetting a whole certain part of the gospel, right? Or of the message. So we just have to be careful, right? When entering this conversation, entering this land of criticism and critiquing things, right? That we don't, overwhelm our audience or overwhelm the individuals with our preferences, our personal preferences and personal convictions, and saying that that's Bible and saying that that's what it is. Yeah. You know what? Yes, we should be calling a spade, but sometimes it's not even about that. Like you said, it's about preferences, and everybody has their preferences. Everybody likes their flavors. And, that's the great thing about artistry and about music and even about worship music, which is that whatever genre you're into,
it's out there for you. It's out there for you to connect with. It's, you know, if there's people that, you know, they listen to worship music because it calms them. There's people that listen to worship music, you know, because it hypes them up. There's people that listen to worship music just because they like to be surrounded by the music. Now, what that sounds like to everybody is completely different, and to each his own. So if you like country worship music, go ahead and take your ukulele and listen to that country music. If you're into more rock type of music, get your electric guitar out. Whatever it is, you know, as long as it's something that really like helps you stay grounded in the Lord and builds on your connection with him, that's what's important.
Definitely. So thank you so much for tuning into today's conversation and podcast. We're so grateful that you listened to the end. Right?
Yes, thank you.
So definitely follow us on Facebook and on Instagram at God Life Culture Podcast. If you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you are following us on YouTube, definitely make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like, share the video, and let us know your opinions on these songs. Let us know, you know, what you think.
Yeah, so thank you once again for tuning into the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. That's God Life Culture. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.